like to call to order tonight's special meeting of the Board of Finance for this Wednesday, December 12th, 2018. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any public comments? Any correspondence? We have some minutes to approve from the last regular meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next item on the agenda is an update for the police station. Had asked Josh to come and give us an update in general, but really focusing on the financial side of it, given that's our relative or related purview. So,
Yep,
thank you, John, for coming. Thanks for coming, Josh.
Yeah, I actually talked to Brad this week to get what the Board of Finance, the Controller's Office had remaining in the account. And as of, I think, Monday, I talked to you, there's $451,000 left in the account. Of that money, we still, the payout down is complete, it would be $150,000. Jahumsky Humes, approximately $10,000. Utility communication, we owe them $20,000. We just paid AT&T another $9,000 for 911, and we also paid. We're getting the window treatment put on the cupola because of the sunlight glare coming in with the dispatchers on the panels. That was about $3,000, and we had a $20,000 payment to the fiber optic company that was a price that was given to us back at the beginning of the project. So currently, right now, including contingency money, if we don't spend a dime more, we have about $239,000 left in the total account for the police station project.
Sorry, did you say 239?
What's that?
239.
239, approximately 239,000.
Jen, I'm a little confused just by the reference to account. I guess I was focusing, and maybe it was just me, focusing too narrowly on the contingency.
Well, okay, the contingency budget as of May 31st was $107,985.
And I take it there's some analysis that gets it from the initial, I forget the exact number, but 198 to the 107. Like when we had that.
Well, what I did was,
Simple yes would have been.
to make things easier, I have what is, I'll pass it out to everyone. This is a contingency expenditure from June to October.
And John, I'm sorry, while you're handing this out, can you just explain, the rest of the board members are probably over there, so sorry for dragging us down a little bit. When you say the account, what is that account and how's it funded?
The contingency account.
No, not the contingency account, the account that you referenced initially.
What the total budget was that was approved by the voters, the total monies. And that included also the additional money that we came back for, that was it $880,000? So,
Okay.
yes.
And you're saying, I missed the number, 239 is?
Yeah, after we made approvals, we had a meeting last night, we approved some other expenditures, and then that's what we ended up with, approximately $239,000 as of last night.
And is the 107 in contingency a subset of the 239 or in addition to?
That 107 was included in that 239 number. So we had some of the other work that came in under budget. Some items such as the telephone service, the moving cost, we budgeted, I believe, $10,000. That came in at $5,700. So we picked up a lot of money along the way there. Special testing, the company did the material testing for the cement, concrete, and That came under budget. We had a budget of, I think, 55,000, and we didn't use that total dollar amount. So that's why we, picked up some extra monies.
Do you have any other expenditures that you're expecting to come?
God, I hope not.
You hope not.
Honestly, Brian, I don't know. Right now, I will say this, the only work that's being performed are contracted punch list items. And there's things such as, some lighting have to get readjusted, there's a couple lights that don't work now, they think the motion sensors are broken. There is panels for the locker room, spacer panels that have not come in yet, the actual signage that goes on the front of the building. The letters are in, the plaque, the company who's installing all that, they're waiting for the plaque to come in, so the company will come out and install the plaque, put the signage on the front, and there's a couple interior signs that have to get put on. What else was there, Josh? There's a couple smaller.
John, does this also cover that additional camera that's needed for
Yes,
the?
that's
the
in
evidence
here.
room?
Yeah, that's in here. Actually, that would be security of evidence processing, 1113 for 915, second one from the bottom.
Okay.
So we think we have no more expenditures. Well, I will say this, one thing we do have to do, part of the initial project on the HVAC units on the outside back of the building, there were the ramps that go over the top of the ductwork, so to allow the technicians to go in and work on the units. The money they wanted for them were astronomical. So we eliminated them, and we're gonna go to one of the local welding companies, like Jim's Welding or Barzetti's Welding, and have them take a look at it to make the platform. So we think we could save a significant amount of money by having a local guy do it.
At what point in time, John, do you think you can kind of just put a final point to it? Like when will folks stop coming to us on the streets and?
Not soon enough. I don't know, what do you think?
It's tough just getting towns to finish their punch list.
Like, for example, they have to go back in April and spread some more topsoil, which is, again, earth movers. That money is already budgeted, and they also, earth movers has a $20,000 bond, so if this work isn't done, the town can pull that bond. But, there's some additional topsoil that has to be done, and a few things like that. So for them, it's gonna be some outside touch-up that will have to wait the spring planting and but hopefully, as far as the actual construction end of it and even the punch list, other than the outside work, I'm gonna say maybe February.
But it sounds like, well, you never can tell, right? There's no certainty. There's nothing that you look at the project and say, well, that might cost a big number, or that could potentially cost a big number.
Right, we shouldn't see anything dollar amount coming in. I mean, it's their punch list. I mean, theoretically, their punch list is done the end of the year.
Yeah.
As late as day, aside from the, couple things outside the landscaping, but end of December, he's telling me he's gonna be done with his punch list stuff.
Is any of the money left gonna be used for the firing range, or it's all just gonna come back to the general fund?
Yeah,
You
that's
don't
up to
know?
you guys.
Close. You think it'll end up coming to the fire range, or?
That's gonna be my proposal to the Board of Selectmen, yeah, because this goes to the Board of Selectmen first, and then we'll,
Yep.
be
Do you know what the
presented to
number
you.
was on the firing range now? That came down quite a bit, right?
Well, I don't wanna give you a number, because the initial estimate was 600, but yeah, it's gonna be lower than that, but I don't wanna get pinned down on speculating, since they have a lot more work to do.
One of the things I gotta say, and I'm glad the committee did, when they built the range building, where the ductwork has to go through the walls, instead of using a finished brick, we had them put a 4-inch brick in there, that's just a filler brick. So the header's already in place, so all they have to do is pop that brick out and run the ductwork through. Also, at the back of the building, because of the panels that, for the range, for the targets, the ricochet, I guess it is, they're very heavy, like steel panels. And by us putting a temporary door in there, again with a brick, they can bring a forklift in to lift these up, because what was the number
It
on
was
that?
$34,000 if there was not forklift access. So it's like one of the first change orders. It's the very first one, actually. It's
Yeah.
$2,800.
$2,800 versus $30,000.
Yeah.
So, again, and they have the finished brick, so when they finish that, they can come in, a mason can come in and put the brick we already have back in place, the finished brick that goes there. So we did a couple of those things, in anticipation of, you know, that's gonna happen, and hopefully save the town some money, you know, down the road. Because you have to come in and break the block wall out and put a header in, you know, that could be quite expensive.
And then trying to match the brick that's there. It's got a texture to it on the outside. So right now, we're just storing the finished brick inside the range, and we choose like a cheap cement block just to brick it up temporarily. And, you know, when they come in to do the work, they just knock those blocks out, drive the forklift in, and then on their way out, just brick it up with the finished brick that matches, you know.
Any more questions?
And I know you mentioned the school, they did have the bid opening today. They had,
I'm sorry, John, just to put a final point on it, so from the standpoint of the police station, I think what we can say when folks come to us and ask the question, that it is likely that you are not gonna be coming back to the Board of Finance for any money. I mean, in fact.
oh no.
At this point, there's.
Absolutely not.
There's $239,000 available.
Even if it was $200,000, there's absolutely no way we're gonna,
Great.
you know, $200,000, oh my God,
I
that's,
think the only thing we're contemplating now is putting temporary heat in the range. Because the range is just new construction, the concrete. Another board member suggested that maybe putting some temporary heat in there, so that the concrete floor doesn't heave if we get a deep frost. So we're just kind of vetting that out right now.
you're looking at that.
Let's see what that costs.
Rent, get like a unit you rent, because the gas for the building is already there, so you tie it to the gas line, so.
Great, well, thank you very much. That kind of arms us with the right information, actual information, as opposed to speculation. So, thank you very much for that. Moving on to the next agenda item, update on the school project.
School, the bids were open today. I don't know what the numbers are. Rizzo Corporation has all the bid packages. They're gonna spend the next week or so vetting all the bid packages and come up with, they're gonna come to the Public Site and Building Commission at the January 8th meeting with their recommendations of what vendors, they, you know, meet the qualifications and what the top three for each one, to make a recommendation for our approval to move forward. And understand, this project, we're getting 45% funding from the state. And we cannot proceed with anything on that project until the state signs the GMP. No matter if Matt signs it or not, if the state doesn't sign it, because they have to have the final approval of everything. They changed their education, building, construction, grant application rules and regulations. And they really made it very stringent because of what some towns were doing and have done in the past. And so we can't, you know, even if we have a change order, they have to approve the change order.
John, there was a lot big to do about owner's reps. And I'm just wondering, how do you feel the owner rep is working out? Has it been well worth the investment, you feel?
Yes.
I think it's early too. You know, we really haven't done much. You know, I think the driving factor in getting the owner's rep is once the project gets rolling.
So then we'll see if it was.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be worth the added cost that we incurred with them, you know, for sure. You know, we can't be there every day answering the questions, and these jobs have a timeline, a schedule they have to keep. You know, we can't wait every 2 weeks to have a meeting to make a decision. It's gotta go.
I mean, just with the magnitude of that project, you know, obviously it's the biggest project the town's ever undertaken. And, you know, there's no way a volunteer board all work can do this, absolutely no way it's impossible. And I think the owner's rep will, I think it's gonna work out quite well.
Good. John, did we get as many bids in as we expected in terms of the, interest and proposals?
The only thing, I did talk to Bob Trippy from Rizzo today, the only thing they did not receive a bid on for either school project was they call general conditions.
And landscaping.
That's, yeah. So they're gonna reach out to some of their vendors who they've used and talk to and say, why didn't you bid? Was there something that's wrong? So that would have to, possibly go up, end up going out to rebid just that area.
There was one category for Johnson where there was only one bid. It was small, it was like $8,000.
Was that the food service?
No.
No, both of them came in with only one bid.
Yeah.
And it was the same company, I think it was like 8250.
Yeah, it's minor.
What's general conditions?
They're the contractor.
General trades, actually.
General trades, yeah. They kind of do, they're not electricians, they're not plumbers, they're not the HVAC. They would do other work in the project.
It's like a labor union.
Like
Yeah.
laborers and, yeah, that's a good, thank you, Brian, yeah. Yeah. And they are very, because they talk to a lot of the trades, and they don't understand why they would bid on that. I mean, either school, so.
Yeah, I would
What's the
say there was
scope of
probably
the
in
general
excess of
trade?
300 bids.
What's that?
There was probably in excess of 300 bids between the two schools.
That many?
Oh, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it took us over 3 hours, 3:20
Yeah.
to open them up.
What's the general scope of a general trade, bid? Any idea? Is it minor?
No, I think it's pretty significant.
Well,
What's
I think
the
so.
budget for it,
It was 1.2 million for, let's see, what's school. For Rockwell, it was 1.2. Johnson, I'm sure it was, pretty close to the same. But I think, they were still carrying that number.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I'm not a construction person. What kind of work is that? Like, what are they doing?
They could do carpentry work, labor, which would be everything from cleaning up, moving things, sheet rocking, tile work.
So that's a substantial portion of the job.
Yeah.
So it's surprising that someone didn't bid on
Yeah,
that.
and again, Bob Trippy, I was just amazed that no one bid on it. He said, I just can't understand that. Where other areas was some significant amount of bids that came in. I mean, you guys.
And HVAC.
I mean, HVAC was probably the biggest, and plumbing.
HVAC is the highest actual dollar amount bid. The next closest is electrical, but it's only half the value. So if HVAC was 6 million, electrical was 3 million. And on HVAC, there was at least 8 bidders. I know some guys are only bidding one school, but yeah, it was definitely a great turnout for the HVAC in numbers.
And they're all, I hate to say it, but they're all they call Rockwell School the problem child. Just logistically, there's a lot of the location, the structure itself, and, that's gonna be the biggest challenges. And all the contractors basically said that. Because we did a walkthrough for the contractors, we did 2 of them, and they all felt that Rockwell's gonna be a lot of challenges. Or Johnson, it was a piece of cake.
So did they suggest what would make it less of a problem child? I mean, are there?
It's the age of the building, the location, the site, the type of construction it is.
It's very tied to the
It's very tight.
clearances, headroom.
Yeah.
All those schools, they're, anything built in the 70s, they weren't, you put ductwork in, they weren't allowing for it. So the space above its ceiling is very, very shallow. So fitting the ductwork, all the mechanical, sprinklers, conduits, everything we're trying to do to modernize these buildings, there's very limited space actually above the ceilings in both schools, but, Rockwell is tough because you got a floor above you also, and that's all they have. Through Johnson's a little bit more spread out, I think, so it works out. And there's a new addition on Johnson, so it works out well.
Was there anything in the initial bids, based on initial review, that suggests the cost is gonna have to be rethought, the total cost?
I'm not
way too early to find out.
But nothing that stood out, not like, we were expecting HVAC to be 6 million and it came in at.
We're not gonna know that till about a week or so when, Rizzo goes through all the bids and they analyze them.
But was there anything, just looking at the bids initially, opening them up, that was a surprise?
No,
I wasn't there, so I don't know what the numbers came in or not at all.
no, they were generally in the ballpark. But again, you know,
With the
there were.
exception of labor, we're not sure where that's
What's
gonna,
that?
with the exception of labor, we're not sure where that's gonna come in until we go to them, right?
Well, there were some odd outliers, like, you know, 5 bids that would be right in the range that was the estimate, then one that would be significantly lower, and then one significantly higher. So you have to look at those and determine if did they misunderstand what was required, did they leave something out or put something in that doesn't belong in there? That's gonna be Rizzo's job to analyze that and make sure that all the comparisons are on an apples-to-apples basis.
Yeah, I know, you know, going back to the police station project, when we opened the bids there, we had some bidders that were disqualified.
Yeah.
Some didn't even have bonds, or they weren't under DAS, so, you know, I don't know why they even bothered bidding, but they were automatically disqualified.
They'll have to be verified by the state too, right?
Yeah.
As of today.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, it's gonna be an interesting project as far as dealing with the state on what their requirements are. But I will say this, Dr. Carver and Terry Yansky, when they did develop the packages that they brought to the state, they obviously had a book for each school, because each school is a separate funding. The people from the state were just in awe, because, you know, Terry Yansky had everything in tabs, and broken down by color, and they're going, we've never seen this before. When we get like boxes of paper, you know, here, this is broken down into color-coded tabs and sections, and they go, it made it so much easier. They were thrilled. Ashley commented how well organized Bethel was, and that, you know, and that impression goes a long way. It really does.
It's amazing how fast they're going on the track and field. Every day when I drop my son off, I'm amazed at the amount of dirt they've moved on that project already. Those guys are cooking over there.
So, any other questions?
Any more questions for John and Josh?
I just have one more thing. As of last night, he's the new chairman.
Thank you.
So,
Maybe.
Nancy's staying on as vice chairman, so Josh will be taking over as the chairmanship.
Did they tell you they were electing you chairman, or did you find out
The
later?
train came through.
They texted me after the meeting.
You weren't there?
This is what you get for not showing up.
Exactly.
So, yeah, you know, and again, the other good thing though, the entire committee, no one is up for reappointment this year. So the whole committee basically will be through the whole the standing committee will be through the whole project. So we're not to bring new people in and change. So, you know, we think that's a plus. Cause I gotta say, overall, the committee, everybody on it, and you can say, I'm sure you agree, we really work together. We fight and argue and, you know, Bob, you've been there for a few meetings, but we come up to some good results, and everybody works for the betterment of the project and get it done right. So, it's a good committee overall, everybody.
Thank you very much for coming tonight. It arms us with the facts instead of some of the speculation that we hear, so
You know,
appreciate that.
I was coming down here, I'm saying, there's gotta be a new factory in town, a rumor mill, that makes, you know, generates rumors, because Bethel, man.
I have one other question, I'm sorry to backtrack a little, but as far as the state goes, what's the communication structure? Like, is there one primary contact, or do they have a board as well, and what does that look like?
Dr. Carver has to do all the reporting to the state.
Department of, oh, it's DAS, right?
It's Department of Administrative, there's a Department of School Construction.
Oh, okay.
And so Dr. Carver is the one who's responsible for the actual filings. So, again, Rizzo would be working with her, Perkins Eastman, the architect, our owner's rep. Everything will go to her, and she has to do all the filing, because she's the
But
official.
on their end, on the state's end,
Right.
you know, is there one project manager who's dealing with our project, or is it a board of some kind,
What's his
or?
name? He's from Danbury.
Yeah, well, he's on the board.
I don't think we can answer that.
No.
Yeah,
Because there are multiple departments within DAS that,
I know she's dealing with Wimbledon Barbara all the time. Whenever we have a question, she does have one person of contact that she'll call and answer our questions for us.
Okay.
Again, thank you very much, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Moving on to the last agenda item, comptroller's report.
Okay, I handed out before the meeting started, the November report with revenue and expenditures. Everything seems to be on track. If you look at the expenditures, you might notice a few things that appear to be out of whack, like the probate. And I've mentioned this before, it's 4 towns. We pay all the bills at the end of the year. Newtown, Reading, and Richfield reimburses the town of Bethel for the allocated portion. So right now, you see a $1,300 deficit. And that's gonna grow throughout the year, but we'll get reimbursed for it. We'll be in line with what we budgeted last year at this time. Another one, if you go into the details, the fire marshal's office seems to be out of whack. That's on page 7. And that's only because right now, posted to that account, which we have to do, is the abatement for the firemen. They get reimbursed up to $1,000 if they do all their service hours, attend the meetings, and also a number of fires.
Property tax abatement.
Property tax abatement, yeah. So, at the end of the year, we transfer that out of, it has to be recorded in the expenditures, then we transfer that out afterwards, to, the revenue side. So, that account will come in line as well. Insurance may look like it's out of whack, but, we just paid the 4th out of the 5th installment, the early part of, or the latter part of November. So the next one will be due in January, and for the most part, we will have paid all of our insurance expenditures at that point. That's on property liability and workers' comp. And other than that, I mean, we already transferred the capital non-recurring, so that number with the miscellaneous charges is down substantially. Last year, year ending June 30th of 18, we waited to the end of the year for the most part to do that, so that number was always available. But that amount right now is sitting in capital non-recurring. And that's about it really when it comes down to the revenue, like I said, is in line, you know, so.
I had a question based on some of the headlines I've been reading, right? We've got a couple significant property tax appeals. What's that doing to our legal fees, right? That's kind of an account that we think we may overshoot each year.
Yeah, the attorney is Olson, Kate Olson, I guess it is.
on the Duracell?
On the Duracell, that's the big one. You know, they're going from 60 million, they're appealing their assessment at 60 million, and they're bringing it down to 40 million, but, really, there hasn't been much in the way of legal fees that came in from her, just maybe $5,000 so far.
Yeah.
You know, so, there isn't much in there at this point.
Thank you.
A couple other things with not this report, but, we're working on the capital plan right now, and with all departments except for, Park and Rec, and, yeah, I think it's Park and Rec is the last one that's due in. I've got some estimated numbers in there, but we're probably in a line of somewhere around $8 million right now, for, capital expenditures. 2 big items, two towers, one for 1.7, one for 1.2. So you got really $3 million right there. And,
Just keep in mind that this is the wish list.
Yeah.
Like last year. This is not what you're gonna see.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And then the other thing, I was hoping, well, if we were downstairs, I'd be able to show you the new software that we're working on for the budget presentation, but we can't do it on here. But there's a software that we're using, we're having the departments input into the software itself, and we're hoping to get that out probably at least 10 days before the first budget meeting starts, so that the committee can look over the entire budget. It's easy to use, you can funnel through it. Top section will show in expenditures the narrative like we normally have in a book. And then you get into the individual expenses. There's also a section where departments can add files, so I'm thinking about like in the case of the town clerk, where she has all those different reports that she generates revenue during the course of the year. Those can be attached there, and you can look at all the files, you know, rather than going through the book.
So how we access that will be a
We'll
view
either,
only opportunity for us to go in and see that from remote, or do we have to be here?
When you would come to the meeting, if you brought a laptop or a
Yep.
Chromebook, you could log into the software, and ahead of time, we'll give you the password to get in. I think it's a generic one, and then you set your own. Is that what winds up happening on that?
Yeah, so you'd have an account set up, and you'd get an email from OpenGov, and you'd go in and create your own password for it.
Okay.
Weren't we discussing possibly doing Chromebooks to save on all the paper and stuff?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is part of the follow-up.
This is all
to that
part of it, yeah.
discussion, right?
Right, I just don't have a Chromebook.
So you could look at this ahead of time, and then when we have a list of 10 or 15 different departments, you know, they can come in, they really don't have to do a presentation, you already have all the information on them, and you can ask them whatever questions you might have after you reviewed it ahead of time, you know? And maybe it'll make the meetings go quicker,
Said you would be giving us a Chromebook to use?
unless you have one.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was one of the questions we were gonna ask.
Yeah,
was
This is the smartest thing I have.
If, we figured people that had a personal device, they'd rather use that, cause they know how to operate it very well. So at some point, we will reach out to see who needs what.
You can use an iPad or.
It's web-based, so it's whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
That's it, huh?
That's it.
well, that's gonna be small, too small.
So we've talked about that, it's possible to work that out, if you'd rather have that than your own device, that's fine, we can do it.
I still think the department heads should present their
They can,
budgets.
they can.
I mean, it's, you know.
All the information's gonna be there, you know.
Yeah, but I still think that they should present it, because there may be things that we don't pick up on, or they're particularly priority important to them, that they should, you know, present to us, so.
I guarantee they will point out the things that are most important to them, never fear.
Yeah, but I'd like to see the whole,
Yeah, they will.
you know, conversation, and then we have the backup on the Chromebooks or whatever,
This will just replace our notebooks, I think.
which I think is a great idea.
Save a few dozen trees.
Yeah, Bob kind of whizzed me around just a few pages of it. It looked really nice. It looked pretty slick. If we can get it kind of set up in time for this season, it'll be, I think, a great tool for us. It'll make.
They're actually coming in tomorrow morning, what, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. I asked them for certain reports, because for me, looking at the computer screen is nice, but I can't get my hands around it right now. I do like the book, you know, I can go pages after page, you know. So they're gonna, something similar to what we normally put into the News Times, with a breakdown by the departments, each individual departments, and then categories for each of the expenses. So, we'll see what they come up with.
But it would take the place of all our paper, right? Like you guys could post agendas, everything, it would make life a lot easier for everyone, right?
Well, this is only for the budget, just
Oh.
strictly for the budget.
So, all right, because when I was on the Board of Ed, they did everything. They had it on your Chromebook, they would email you everything, and you just keep all your documents right there.
Mhm.
So you didn't have all this paper, and it made everyone's life
So
easier.
that may be something in the future, but there wouldn't be this software, this is strictly.
Well, I'm
budget.
just saying it was nice.
You use like a Google Drive for that or something.
I don't know what
Yeah.
they used, I mean, they set it up for you, it was pretty idiot-proof, you just
Mhm.
press the button.
They use
everything
Google
came out.
Drive.
It was good, it was nice.
At what point do we kind of have to make a go, no-go decision? In other words, you know, do the books or do the new online?
Well, probably not until sometime in January, at least, yeah. Ann and Izzy are coming up, you sort of responses. So they're gonna look at it on Friday, I'm gonna see how they adapt to it, so to speak, you know. I think, you know, it's not gonna be a problem. They're easy departments. When you get into like the police department or the highway department or even Park and Rec, I mean, there's a lot more detail in those. So we're gonna have to spend a lot more time with them explaining how to use the software.
I think to answer your question, right now we're a go until we have to stop.
Until we're not.
Yeah, so.
So that's pretty much it.
Good.
Any questions?
Good news.
Make a motion.
Motion to
Adjourn.
adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.